So, are you thinking about getting some of these? Maybe you have an allotment that allows chickens. Maybe you have a bit of space at home, maybe in your back garden or a local field that you can put some chickens in. This time of year, you can really be inundated with those pictures of those cute little fluffy chicks. But the reality is they grow very, very quickly. Now, I've come up with 10 questions to ask yourself before you even think about getting any chickens, just to help you actually prepare yourself to see if it's actually right for you. Now, the first question to ask yourself is, why do you actually want chickens? Is it for the eggs? Is it because you would like an unusual pet? Or is it maybe meat birds? Now, meat birds are a little bit more uncommon here in the UK, but people do still raise their own meat birds. These questions will help narrow down the what, where and how to the start of your chicken keeping. So if you're deciding to get chickens because maybe chicken eggs are starting to get really expensive, with the way the world is working, maybe with avian flu, egg prices could in fact start raising. Has that started that thinking process that maybe keeping your own chickens is cheaper than store-bought eggs? The second question is, what stage? So you have different options. You can get eggs that you hatch in an incubator, and then once they've hatched, you keep them with a heat source and then you grow them on. It can be a little bit difficult if you've never tried it before, and bear in mind you could end up with a lot of cockerels. And what are you going to do with those cockerels? A lot of places here in the UK, you can't keep cockerels. They're just far too noisy, and you could end up with an aggressive one. But at the same time, you could end up with the most docile, loving cockerel that you've ever met. But for majority of people, having cockerels, it's a no-no. So bear that in mind. Have you got somewhere for those cockerels to go if you end up hatching 6 cockerels? There are plenty of videos out there to teach you how to incubate your eggs, what to look for, how to create a healthy environment for those chickens. But maybe it really isn't suitable for the average person, down to maybe the factor of having so many cockerels. The second option is having day-olds or young chicks. Yes, you still have to provide them heat and you still have to provide them somewhere to grow. Coming outdoors, especially here in the UK, they can't really be outdoors until they are fully feathered. It's too cold and too drafty and will cause health issues. In fact, you could end up killing your chickens. Maybe using a brooder box or maybe half a shed that you can heat up part of and give them a little bit of room to grow. Having day-olds, like we did, is a really good option. It's cheaper. It's normally only between, well, let's say £1 and £3 a chicken, depending on what type of breed. And the fact that the chickens grow up around you and you're handling them and they get used to you makes a big difference to the temperament of your chickens. Another option is maybe going for poles, point of lay chickens. These are chickens that are almost ready to lay or at the laying stage, normally from 16 to let's say 24 weeks, give or take, depending on the breed. These can be a really good option if you didn't want to go down the route of providing that heat for those chickens or having somewhere that's not a coop for them to go while they feather up. But bear in mind, it can be a lot more expensive. At this age, they can be anything from 20, well, to hundreds of pounds, depending on the breed. Now, majority in general, they turn out about £25 each, give or take. And if you want a slightly larger flock, this could get very expensive very quickly. So you need to bear that in mind. But at least you will know in general whether you've got a male or a female, again, depending on breed. You can normally tell a good healthy bird at that age, and really they are probably much easier to look after than the younger chickens. Another thing to maybe consider is rescues. There is many different ways in the UK to rescue commercial chickens. but unfortunately they're often in very, very poor state. Now, if you're the type of person that wants to give these chickens a nice, good retirement home, it may be a really good start. Maybe if you just want a pet and you're not that bothered about having regular eggs. Having a rescue chicken, they can be very loving and very caring, and they're normally quite docile birds. But again, they can have a lot of health problems, and if this is your first chicken rodeo, then maybe it isn't for you, because there's a lot to keep looking out for. And unfortunately, there's a lot of cases where people have rescue birds and they last maybe 6 months to a year. But if you don't mind that kind of thing and you are just looking at giving that chicken a happy retirement home and having a nice pet, maybe rescues are for you. Now, that was a long question to ask yourself, but it's a really important decision to make before you move on. Now, the next question is, what breed? There are so many different breeds of chickens out there, some easier to get than others. Some more for egg production, maybe even meat production, or they make fantastic family pets because they're a little bit more docile. If you want eggs through most of the year, there are certain breeds that are prolific layers. Maybe something like a highline or a mix of certain breeds that are really prolific egg layers. If you want a meat bird, there are certain birds that put on a lot of meat quite quickly, and these are specifically chosen if you want to butcher your own birds. Again, for pets, there are some beautiful chickens out there that really are a lot more docile and are more than happy to come and sit on your laps and have a good fuss. So researching your birds on what you want goes a long way for your future production. The next question to ask is, what's your space? What space have you got to keep chickens? Now, we're quite fortunate, we're allowed chickens on our allotment and we were able to give them a reasonable amount of space. And through the summer months, we'll actually give them a little bit more space outside in an area that's actually netted so they can't escape when we're down here working on the allotment. But maybe if you've got a back garden and you've got a small space, this shouldn't have to stop you having chickens. But maybe reduce your flock size. Chickens don't necessarily have to take up a lot of room, but they do need space to do the things that they do naturally. And that is scratch and dig and explore, chase the bugs, and basically annoy each other. That leads us on to the next question, your coop and your run. How are you going to do it? Are you going to buy a coop? Are you going to go down the DIY route, which is what we did? Are you going to go for wood? Are you going to go for the plastic coops? There's a few decisions out there to make. Now, a word of warning, you will see lots of wooden coops for sale at a reasonable price, but many of these coops are not very big at all. And you will find that they actually only fit 1 or 2 birds, even though the advert may say will fit up to 6. I have been caught out in the early stages of my chicken years where I have bought a coop after reading that it says it will fit maybe 4 to 6 chickens and getting it, and it barely fit 2 full-size chickens. So that's a lesson learned. With my flock, we decided to go down the built route. Now, this is the most ugliest coop that you will probably ever see. But we made it because we have 11 chickens here. Now, this was hand built out of lots of recycled material. And I think with the coop and the run, it was under £200. Now, we've built it so we've got 2 doors that we can actually open up on our coop for easier cleaning, because that's another thing to consider when you are thinking about or buying a coop, is how easy is it to clean. Because if you can't clean it easy, trust me, it won't get done, and you really do need to keep on top of your chicken husbandry. With ours, we have used old shed panels, old posts, all sorts of bits and pieces to make our chicken coop. Now, it is more than big enough for our chickens. And in fact, you can see they just love digging up their bedding, which drives me a little bit crazy, to be honest. But there's 2 lots of nest boxes on either side. This one's split into 2 and that one's split into 1. Now, all my eggs were collected yesterday, so this is just today's egg collection. Now with this coop, we have got this awful plastic up there. It's not part of the original design. I am just trying to get my chickens stopping roosting on the roof, because that's what they do, and I don't want the local fox to get them. It is sheltered. This whole run we actually built out of pallet and trampoline parts and some good strong galvanised wire. But this is up here temporarily until we can come up with another fix, because this looks absolutely awful. But it is stopping the chickens from roosting on top of the roof and absolutely pooping everywhere. I would like to go down the plastic coop route, but in my eyes they are just incredibly expensive. And for my size flock, it would be, well, a lot of money for my size flock. I think in the future, if I can find a good deal on maybe a Nesta coop, or maybe some of the other brands of the plastic coops, I may get it, because that is the thing when you're choosing your coops. With a wooden coop, you have more risk of red mite, and red mite can be a serious issue quite quickly if you don't keep on top of it. Wood can also rot, and it does need regular maintenance. Plastic, I've heard, is better, easier to clean, to take part, maybe even jet wash. And of course, it's not going to rot. But because I don't own a plastic coop, I can't say whether it's better or worse. I can just gauge by what people's reactions have been. Maybe in the future I will do, but again, unless I remortgage, that's not going to happen. The next question to ask yourself, do you have the time and the energy? Chickens aren't something that you only cater and look after for once a week. You do really have to see them every single day. If they're in your back garden or backyard, it makes it a lot easier. But if you have it on allotment, you have to make sure that you're going down there on a daily basis. 1, to make sure that they've got food and water. 2, to make sure that they're safe. And 3, the regular cleaning that you need to have. Now, chickens aren't hard to look after, but you do need to allocate time in your day to deal with any issues, regular cleaning, food and water. So if you are really this kind of person that is strapped for time and you don't have much time to get down to your allotment at the moment, maybe chickens aren't for you. Now, chickens can be left for a couple of days so long as they have got plenty of water and food. But I wouldn't recommend doing that on a regular basis, because it really can cause issues. And the last thing you want to do is lose your flock. Now, when it comes to holidays, are you a type of person that goes on holidays on a regular basis? If you are, and you haven't got somebody to come in and check on your chickens to make sure they've got food and water, make sure that they're clean, then again, maybe it isn't for you. But to be honest, you have probably got neighbours or friends that will be more than happy to spend some time with your chickens, leaving them some good instructions to follow. Your chickens should, in fact, be in safe hands. And this is where we come to our next question to ask ourselves. Can we cope with all the cleaning? Chickens are incredibly messy. And when you see these people with their chickens and their chicken coops are pristine, there doesn't seem to be a poop drop anywhere. You see these beautiful Instagram posts from America maybe of these beautifully designed coops, and it all looks beautiful and sparkling clean. Well, the reality of chickens is if they can get to something, they will poop on it. Now, whether this is their feeder, their nest boxes, their roof, their watering, anywhere that they go, they will poop. This poop builds up incredibly fast. And in fact, I came down just yesterday and I cleaned this coop completely out. And there is already poop all over the nest boxes, all over the water and all over the feeder. So this is where this comes in handy. This is my little cleaning bucket, and I have a whole range of different tools to scrape up and clean after the chickens. Jay's fluid, which is what I use as a disinfectant, but there is plenty of other disinfectants that are safe to use around chickens. There are lots of things that you need to keep in mind when you're cleaning your chickens. Now, doing regular poo checks each and every day does cut down on a lot of the mess. But believe me, especially with my flock of 11, it builds up very, very quickly. So again, maybe if you don't want to have a mass amount of cleaning, having too many chickens may be more of an issue. Having 3, maybe 4 chickens is a lot easier to keep clean than maybe a larger flock. Now, 2, maybe 3, up to 4 times a year, I will do a deep clean where everything gets stripped down and disinfected here in our little area. Now, I do regular cleans on a weekly or 2 weekly of the basic cleaning, and I will poo pick, change bedding if I need to, clean stuff down when they've pooped on it, I do that. But several times a year, it is a deep clean where everything that the chickens go near gets disinfected, scrubbed and cleaned. So again, with the previous question with coops and run, your time and your energy, can you factor this into your schedule? It's messy work, it is dirty work, it can be dusty work. So bear this in mind as you prepare for your chicken journey. So with that cleaning schedule comes the food and the water. Can you come down every day to make sure that they have got food and water? In the winter months, your water will freeze. Have you got the time to come down and actually break the ice on that water? Have you got an efficient way to feed your birds? There are many different waterers, many different feeders on the market, and some are definitely better than others. Again, doing a little bit of research to the best water and the best feeder goes a long way. I have tried many different feeders and many different waterers, and they all have their pros and cons. You want something that's 1, easy to keep clean, 2, won't attract any rats, and 3, that the chickens can access. And the 4th one I think is quite important, is that you can put a decent amount of food in those feeders. And again, with the waterers, can you top it up with several litres of water at a time? If you're buying equipment that only holds maybe a litre of water, that's going to go incredibly quick throughout the day. So which means you need to check on it maybe once, twice a day. With your feeders, again, does it hold a larger amount? Otherwise, you are going to be topping that up again on a very regular basis. Keeping it rodent proof. There is different designs out there to keep your chicken feed from being a rat's paradise. Costs of chicken feed can vary massively around the country and also depends on where you buy it from. Now, I buy 40 kilos of chicken pellets for my chickens here for my flock. That costs about £12 a bag, so £24 a month for 11 chickens. Now, through the summer months, it gets a bit cheaper because I have a lot more vegetation to give them, which bulks up their food supply. But it is an ongoing cost. Can you afford to do that? But if you've got a smaller flock, obviously you'll go through a lot less pellets. So if you don't really have much money to spend on chickens, keeping your flock smaller will really help you in the long run. Water, if you're on an allotment and you do have a tap, is that tap turned off through part of the year? Ours is turned off through the winter months. We have to manually bring in water to top up our water feeder. Enrichment, it is really important to give your chickens something to do. Chickens can get bored very, very easy, and if you leave something in your coop that's not supposed to be there, maybe not safe for your chickens, they will very quickly explore that, maybe even hurting themselves. Chickens love naturally to jump around, to be able to stretch their wings. They absolutely love digging holes in their run. We love to use a bark and wood chip that we get for free in our chicken run, and this gives them plenty of area to be able to dig and to search for little bugs, maybe a bit of food scrap here in their coop. They spend a lot of time cleaning themselves, and as you can see from this one here, she has gone through a molt. She is a little bit bald in places. This time of year they go through a molt and they can drop a lot of feathers. There's nothing more that chickens love to do than to scratch the ground looking for those tasty little tidbits. Now, enrichment, you can actually maybe hang up some kale or some veggies, whatever you've got that the chickens can jump and peck at. This will give them a lot of entertainment and some good exercise, burning off some extra calories to get that leafy green. We hang up kale and anything that's old, that's still got a bit of green on for the chickens to peck at quite happily, enriching their diet and enriching their minds, keeping them focused on getting that food instead of maybe bickering. There are many chicken toys on the market and I think some of them probably aren't really suitable. That's completely up to you, but you don't need those kind of chicken toys. You can find enrichment from an overturned pot, hiding certain things, maybe making a plastic shaker with lots of holes in, that when they peck at it, it actually drops seed. This will keep them entertained for a little while as well. You can really use your imagination, but just remember to make sure that it is safe. Chickens have a really good habit of getting themselves into trouble quite quickly. But chickens do need enrichment, somewhere where they can climb maybe, stretch those wings, naturally dig and do what chickens do best. Now the last thing, and probably the most important thing out of this whole list of 10, is security. Unless your chickens are secure in some form or other, majority of those chickens will be killed by the local foxes, badgers or even rats if they are small enough. There is lots of things even here in the UK that can kill chickens, and there is nothing worse than a fox who is determined to get into your chickens, because they will keep coming back time and time again, testing all the little security measures that hopefully you have put in. But there is some key things that you can do to help against foxes. One is to use really good, strong galvanised wire. The stronger the gauge, the better. But because foxes will chew through wire, they are really renowned for it. If they've given the time and they really want something, they can slowly chew it through the average chicken wire. So using strong galvanised wire is a must for your chicken keeping. Foxes and badgers are also known for digging very, very efficiently. So around your perimeter of your run, you need to go down a couple of feet with either chicken wire or bricks or debris, something like that, to stop the foxes being able to dig in. We use a metal skirt that we have coming from the base of our run that comes out 2 foot. On average, a fox will dig normally quite close to the edge of your run. Because we've got it 2 feet, every time he tries to dig, he's hitting chicken wire. So this does help somewhat towards our chickens. Is your door or your gate that secures your chicken run secure? Make sure that nothing can actually get in or accidentally hit maybe the handle or the lock and open that coop door. There's lots of different ways to secure your chicken run, and if you have got a roof, we've used actual chicken wire all over the roof as well. Unfortunately, on our last flock, we lost all our chickens to foxes. I hadn't realised in a previous storm that one of the roof panels that we had, the plastic covering, actually had come loose. And unfortunately, this gave a gateway for the local foxes to get in through the night and decimate our flock, killing every single chicken. Now, you don't want this heartbreak. It is absolutely devastating to see, and it really does bring a tear to the eye. So the more secure you can make your run, the better. Foxes are really clever and they will test all these areas that you put in. And they are just very clever creatures. And if they want your chickens, they will try very hard for your chickens. So really make sure that your coop and run is very, very secure. So that is my 10 questions to ask yourself whether chickens are suitable for you or not. It's a lot of questions to ask, but I think each one is important because each one will help you determine whether chickens are right for you. It is not just about the eggs. It is not just about the companionship. Can you provide that environment that the chickens can lead a happy, healthy life? It really is important to ask yourself those questions. If you have any other questions that you think I could add to this kind of list, pop them below. As a community, we really can help each other decide whether or not chickens are for us. Chickens aren't hard to look after, and it doesn't have to cost an awful lot of money to start up your own chicken flock. It doesn't have to be overly complicated. I think sometimes we make things so complicated when it comes to keeping chickens that it actually takes all the enjoyment out of. Chickens are simple creatures. They need food, water, enrichment, enough space to do what they naturally want to do. Good husbandry will keep a lot of these illnesses and diseases away. And hopefully, if you get all this right, you will get multiple years of enjoyment out of your chickens.